The Gun Violence Archive is a leading compiler of gun violence and gun crime data. However, the data collection and representation is entirely flawed. It is the most common source of statistics for gun control politicians that push restrictions against the Second Amendment.
There have been more than 600 mass shootings since the beginning of this year alone.
This is because they have a different definition compared to other sources that track gun violence statistics, such as the FBI, whose mass killing statistic of 4 deaths was the standard definition until recently. The Gun Violence Archive definition of a mass shooting is any shooting in which 4 or more are shot, not including the shooter. No one even needs to be killed in the incident to be counted as a mass shooting event. This definition drastically inflates the numbers and is used as political fodder to show a substantial rise in mass shootings, coinciding with the new definition. It is also incredibly misleading, as it flies in the face of what is commonly understood to be a mass shooting in the collective consciousness. When you hear mass shooting, it invokes the image of a gunman trying to kill as many people as possible. But this loose definition, which does not even require any deaths, encompasses many other incidents. It includes gang violence and even self-defense shootings. Suppose a man is attacked by 3 criminals and the victim defends himself with a firearm, and all 4 individuals involved in the incident wind up with gunshot wounds. This qualifies as a mass shooting, and I don't even need to provide hypotheticals like this to show how out of touch the GVA's definition is. Take their first recorded mass shooting of 2023. A heated argument escalated to gunfire, with one man opening fire, killing 1 and injuring 4 others. It goes without saying that the shooting is a tragedy, but it is not what most of us would call a mass shooting. I would not even think of considering it if not for this definition. Yet, it counts, and is included in the number of mass shootings cited by countless politicians in 2023. Take this mass shooting, for example. 4 injured, no deaths. 2 of the injuries were described by police as being grazed by bullets. This was at an after-hours gathering, and a security guard returned fire. The reports do not mention if any of the injuries, such as the grazings, were the result of the return fire, or if they were all from the instigator of the incident. Again, 4 injured, 2 apparently with nothing more than scratches, and it falls into the category of mass shooting, contributing to the overall total for the year. Or even a shootout between 2 groups of women, where people from each group are both victims and aggressors. 4 injuries, no deaths, but a mass shooting. However, if these are the shooters also getting injured, then that would not even qualify with their own definition. So even when the violence is perpetrated from both sides, it becomes a mass shooting because it meets the strictly numerical definition. And it doesn't just end at mass shootings either. The Gun Violence Archive also tracks school shootings, which they define on their methodology page as an incident that occurs on property of the elementary, secondary, or college campus where there is a death or injury from gunfire. That includes school proper, playgrounds, skirt of the facility, which includes sidewalks, stadiums, parking lots. They do at least grant that this must occur when students, staff, or faculty are present for school or extracurricular activities. I have seen other organizations include a suicide by a man in the parking lot overnight as a quote-unquote school shooting. However, if you look at their actual school shootings page, you find that they categorize incidents as school shootings, which fall outside their own stated methodology. Again, starting at the beginning of 2023, the first incident under school shootings is, in fact, a non-shooting incident, where a student brought a gun to school and was arrested. Indeed, even the second school shooting listed for 2023 was an incident of a student bringing a firearm to school, not shooting anyone, and being arrested. In this case, the student allegedly pointed the firearm at another student, but that is not, according to their own methodology, a school shooting, but it is listed on the school shooting page. One of the incidents listed as a school shooting did not even result in any arrests, because apparently bringing a loaded gun to school in a fanny pack without threatening anyone is not violative of state law. They sent a letter home asking the parents to talk to the student. But again, this still shows up as a school shooting. I would find the motives of anyone dubious who would define these as school shootings, as they all lack the shooting part of the definition, which I would argue is critical. And this trend continues. The first 16 incidents of school shootings for 2023 resulted in no injuries. If you were to use the Gun Violence Archive's total number of school shootings without context, you would get a wildly different perspective of gun violence at schools from the reality. Obviously, this is not an argument that a student bringing a pistol to school and pointing it at someone else is good, but it is a far cry from a school shooting, and with many similar incidents populating this list, I can't say anything else than that the Gun Violence Archive is lying about the number of shootings, failing to follow its own methodology. Yet, certainly due in part to these inflated numbers, the Gun Violence Archive appears to be the most common source for shooting statistics for gun control advocates. They can cite these numbers as indicative of the overwhelming gun violence problem which grows year after year. This flies in the face of their stated goal that the GVA is against gun violence, not guns or gun owners, and that they strive to provide an unbiased, complete view of the subject. Their founder, when interviewed about the Second Amendment, said he is not against it, but clearly indicates a lack of reading comprehension as he implies an interpretation that only focuses on the militia aspect. They do not provide an unbiased source and, in fact, fuel the push for gun control as part of their mission. Indeed, I find it odd that while compiling this information, my IP address was apparently flagged as matching known suspicious patterns and did not open pages for me. This happened on several occasions while I was doing nothing more than looking through the data. Personally, I find their suspicions of someone looking at their data suspicious. All of the incidents I've detailed so far were within the first half of January 2023. Imagine applying this sort of scrutiny across the entire year's worth of data. That number of 657 mass shootings or the number of school shootings would suddenly seem quite suspect. I even ignored several mass shooting incidents in that time period where there were no deaths and just 4 injuries, including one incident where a man sleeping in his car had to be told to go to the hospital because he had been shot as a bystander while asleep. By the time the bullet reached him, the injury was so minor he had not even realized he was shot. The data collection is also suspect. They brag that they use over 7,500 sources. This includes police, news articles, and social media. They cite the sources for each incident, but some of these incidents are just a post from social media without any corroborating police statements or news articles, because a post on social media can always be trusted and is never corrected with facts later on. This is something to remember. It is always important to keep in mind the sources that are used for information, and that you should question these sources of both yourself and others when you engage in a debate or discussion on important issues, and not just question, but examine them. And based on my examination of the gun violence archive, they are dubious as a source at best. They ignore their own methodology. They use a definition that is completely their own, not used by the FBI or other crime tracking organizations, and this definition also does not line up with the commonly understood definition. So the next time someone tries to tell you how many mass shootings there were or school shootings there were, ask if their source is the gun violence archive, and kindly educate them on the issues with their source. If you have made it to the end of the video, I would appreciate it if you could consider supporting me on Patreon. If not, please at least engage in the YouTube algorithm by liking the video, sharing it with others, and subscribing to the channel. I am Gary Gunderson, and thanks for watching.